Tim's News Explosion. 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 Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube and DLive channels, as well as on the Interactive Entropy software, where you can interact more directly with myself throughout the show by sending through a question or a super chat. Hello to everyone in the live chat on YouTube. Please make yourself known. I see that Dawn Browning, who's a regular fan, is wanting to know that, yes, you have just tuned in at the beginning of a stream for once. So welcome, Dawn. I know you're a big fan and you always miss the show live. So it is currently Monday, the 30th of August, 2021. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where on the ground things are the same as they were last week, as they are in New South Wales, the ACT and New Zealand. Total extreme hard lockdown continues across all 4 jurisdictions, with cases continuing to rise despite the lockdowns. In Victoria, the daily press briefings Dan Andrews and his goons conduct at various times of the morning are continuing, and they are also continuing to sell the fear porn about this wicked, beastly virus. This was the latest from contact tracing or COVID commander Jerome Weimar last week.
COVID is unforgiving. Rachel asked earlier about punishments, but COVID is unforgiving. It will find you, and it will find your family, and it will go through when those, when people don't stay home and isolate as much as possible. And we'll do all we can to keep supporting people in those areas.
Now, I'm sure Jerome was just using a figure of speech when he said that COVID could get through Windows. As far as we know, an airborne virus can't get through a window. Otherwise, what would be the point in isolation if it could just get through Windows? But it should also be highlighted that Victoria's COVID commander, contact tracing chief Jerome Weimar, he has no medical training at all. He used to run Melbourne's trains, so that's an important fact that I think should be highlighted. Meanwhile, the New South Wales and ACT governments are throwing poo at each other as sewage detections of COVID on the New South Wales South Coast. That was the justification for the New South Wales regional lockdown continuing until at least September 10. The Deputy Premier, John Barilaro, since they hadn't found a positive case on the South Coast, it must have come from a Canberrian who'd fled from the ACT lockdown to the South Coast. And this was ACT Chief Minister's Andrew Barr's reply.
To bring up the Murrumbula sewage again, John Barilaro has directly pointed at the ACT as the cause of that. What is your response to this?
Does John know something about the poo that other people don't? I don't know where he's getting that from. I mean, if he's got scientific evidence that can back it up, that it's Canberra poo, okay, all right. But, I mean, seriously, I'm just not interested in having whose poo it was arguments with John Barilaro at the moment, to be honest. Jasper.
Some might say that Andrew Barr might have more knowledge about dropping anchors in Poo Bay. Now, New Zealand's lockdown continues. Jacinda Ardern almost 2 weeks ago put the entire nation into their highest lockdown, alert level 4. which means that even takeaway is closed. This was over one mystery case in Auckland, which it's now, I think, over 600, the Delta cluster there. So like the ACT, New South Wales, who says, Dawn says, can you not hear me, or Andrew Barr? Is that what you're saying? I hope you can hear me. Hearing me is the most important thing here. But yes, going back to New Zealand there. So because the hard lockdown isn't working against the Delta variant, that means that, like it's not in New South Wales, the ACT, or Victoria, the only conclusion can be New Zealand needs to go to a harder lockdown, and so they're considering an alert level 4.5 lockdown, whatever that is. Binary says, can hear me clearly. Yep, good. That's the most important thing there. So where we're at as a country, because remember, Australia has become, both a laughing stock and a horror show to the rest of the Western world with our police state lockdowns. So to get us out of the, police state to the, something resembling a surveillance state, the bipartisan National Cabinet Agreement states that Australia's pandemic strategy of rolling lockdowns in response to COVID outbreaks will continue until 70 to 80% of the eligible population is fully vaccinated, which is currently people aged 16 and over. The Pfizer vaccine's been approved for those over 12. But state premiers have said that even when those thresholds are reached, there'll still be significant restrictions on citizens, with QR check-ins to continue and masks in some settings. States such as Western Australia, under Mark McGowan, he doesn't want to abandon COVID zero in his state because he says people will die. But the truth is now coming out that Western Australia's health system is so appalling that they're even suspending elective surgery with no COVID cases. And Anastasia Palaszczuk, or in Queensland, she and both Mark McGowan were able to get re-elected last year with thumping majorities based on their COVID zero hard borders. And Anastasia Palaszczuk, she loves her 0 days so much that at every day there's a 0 day at a press conference, she makes sure she finger signs for the zero symbol there. She loves doing that zero sign at her press conferences there. She absolutely loves those zeros. But yes, so these Western Australia, Queensland, because they don't want to basically, because it doesn't look like New South Wales, Victoria, and the ACT are going to get back to zero, they're hesitant to reopen their borders if it means that there'll be no COVID zero anymore. But there is, or you'd say, the goalpost moving again, as the national vaccination thresholds are set to be reached by November, and this is aside from WA and Queensland's reopen hesitation. Our health authorities and media are already talking about third booster shots, which are being rolled out in Israel, as they found that the Pfizer vaccine's protections wear off in about 6 to 8 months. This was a tweet put out by Dr. Eli David. So the Israeli government has decided the third COVID shot will be available immediately to those aged 12 over. COVID passports, Green Pass, will be revoked for those without a third shot, i.e. vaccinated with 2 shots, unvaccinated, coming soon to your country. And Dr. Kerry Chant, the Chief Health Officer of New South Wales, said we've got to get used to being jabbed with a COVID vaccine every 6 months.
Double vaccination, but we're now watching countries like Israel see their cases surge despite high vaccination rates. How important are boosters to maintaining this no lockdown plan, and how soon we need to get them so that we can maintain these freedoms we're being promised?
We need to get used to being vaccinated with COVID vaccines for the future. I can't see that COVID is not going to be with us forever. Maybe in the future we can have even better vaccines and coverage across the world to achieve that. I mean, as a public health doctor, we always want to have diseases get totally eliminated, but that's not on the horizon in the near future. So booster doses, repeat doses will be part of it. You know, there'll be different advice about different schedules, which doses you get. But at the moment, our priority has to be getting first and second doses into people, and there will be recommendations about booster doses in the future. And I can assure you that the Commonwealth Government has purchased large quantities of vaccine into 2022, and this will be a regular cycle of vaccination and revaccination as we learn more about when immunity wanes. Dr. Chan,
So Dawn said again that she can't hear when I play a clip. It's definitely, I think, working for others, because they were all gobsmacked with what Kerry Chant said there. If it's not loud enough, then when I upload the podcast version, it'll be louder for those people listening on the podcast there. But New South Wales, where they're now recording over 1,000 new daily cases, they are laying the groundwork for the soft launch of the vaccine passports. From September 13th, New South Wales residents who've been fully vaccinated, that is currently with 2 doses, will be allowed to picnic in groups of up to 5 outside. That is such an amazing reward. They've also introduced a vaccine mandate for the state's teachers as part of their back to school plan starting at the end of October. This is on top of the already agreed national vaccine mandate for aged care workers. And the New South Wales government, the Premier Gladys Berejiklian said last week they are working on integrating proof of vaccination into their QR check-in system. So when more businesses open, the vaccine passport infrastructure is already in place. And obviously with, Sydney in its 10th week of lockdown, clearly the the Sydney population is very frustrated, and one man's lost his job in Sydney. An employee of Couriers Please, who filmed himself throwing across the mailroom floor a parcel addressed to Gladys Berejiklian, and he posted himself throwing the package across the mailroom floor, and is been sacked for disrespecting the Premier's package. It says the Couriers Please has been alerted to a video circulating on the internet in relation to a parcel addressed to the New South Wales Premier's office. The content of the video in no way reflects the values or code of conduct in Couriers Please. The freight handler in the video was dismissed immediately as part of our investigation, and we're also speaking with franchises and employees to ensure everyone adheres to our code of conduct. So there you go. Now, because we have both the Liberal and Labor parties at state and federal level, this bipartisan lockdown and vaccine passport policy, there are, I should say, a few dissenters within the broader coalition, such as George Christensen, Queensland National MP, though he's retiring at the next election. There in the Senate, there's LNP Senators Matt Canavan and Jared Rennick, who've spoken out against vaccine passports at the state level. Liberal backbencher Tanya Davies, she does a daily live stream on her Instagram and Facebook. She is vehemently opposed to vaccine passports, but it's clear with the federal and state cabinets where the decisions are made, whether you're living in a Liberal or Labor state, it is that it's going to be, if you want to get out of lockdowns, you'll have to take the vaccine and have proof of vaccination on whatever device you have. Therefore, it's not surprising that many minor political parties and activist groups are now making power plays for the votes of disaffected Australians. Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party, both Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts, both in the Federal Senate, they've made it pretty clear that they oppose mandatory vaccine and vaccine passports. Pauline Hanson herself has said she's not getting the vaccine. She is not going to be, in her words, injecting that shit in her. Now, for the past week, there's been this rumored truckies blockade that is supposed to be happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's been floating around on Telegram. These rumors about blocking transport routes there as a way to show some truckies power in cutting off the nation's food supply. In my opinion, that's a pretty risky strategy there, because the Australian people, if this does eventuate tomorrow, given how much the majority of Australians support all the lockdowns, otherwise our leaders wouldn't do it. It's more likely the end result of such short-term action will be they'll just be pissed at the truckers who are blocking their food. And there was a spontaneous, unexpected short truckers protest on the Queensland main highway this morning, which was supported by Pauline Hanson's One Nation and Rod Culleton's Great Australian Party. And this was the point that Pauline Hanson was making in one of her exchange to the truckers, telling him to end the protest once they'd been disruptive enough.
She has always been for the Australian people.
Hello.
And I appreciate everything. And you should have been Prime Minister a long, long time ago, mate.
Anyway, I support you, okay?
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Prove the point, and it's people like you that stand up, have got the guts to do this here. Anyway,
Yeah.
Have they fined you?
Mate, they've been pretty good at the moment. They're only here to do a job, and obviously
Well, I'll tell you what, they fine you, I'm paying it.
Thanks, mate. I would appreciate it.
I'm paying you fine.
Thank you.
I'm paying you fine.
Oh, he got
I fined you.
I did several already. No, it's.
Picked you up.
But
you in one of these trucks?
Yeah, he was helping. Yeah, so don't forget this bloke. He's another one of the soldiers.
We need more Australians that stand up for what they bloody believe in, because we're being controlled and not.
I'm in the same boat as Eve.
No.
But I've got 4 little kiddies at home, and now we've been told that we can't load in Sydney now. So it's either this, we park them here, or I'll park it at home and don't support my family. And I'm not having that big thing sitting on my grass making it go brown. So it either sits there or it's not going home.
Okay.
So they need, ScoMo and the Three Stooges need to open it up. We've had enough. Right?
I think that was what I just did is the wrong footage there. But Pauline Hanson, she basically said I think I can actually play it in, David Hiscock wasn't impressed with when Pauline Hanson said for him to end the protest here. I think this is the actual footage here. And you can see in the headline what David Hiscock thought of what
12 months.
And
Can I say to you, I think you've proven your point now, the government. You can do this anytime. What I suggest, because you've got a lot of Aussies down there who are caught in this, you've got to think of the Aussies now. I will stand beside you.
Police put him in that position. They were at the exit.
I will stand beside you to do it.
So what happened there?
And continue the fight. But now, I'd suggest move your truck, move it on, let the Aussies get to the work and do what they need to do, because you need the Australian people behind you.
Yeah.
Don't piss off the Australian people.
I'm only doing it for you, and that's it. Oh, and the Aussies, but right.
Your mates, yeah, okay, you're strange. You're proving a point. Okay, so move on.
Yep.
We'll work together for this. Take on, and but you're proving your point. Let the Aussies get on and do what they need to do. These might be going to medical treatment, hospitals, whatever. Don't hurt the Aussies. They're your mates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and
Will you do that?
we'll do it for you and the Aussies, and that's it, mate. So,
You're gonna move, eh? Yeah, we'll just move down to a training spot.
Roughly how many truckies are involved?
Well, we don't know.
and there is a lot of trucking. I will say there is a lot of truckers involved, but obviously our plan didn't go to plan, so.
We're doing
We'll just move further down.
Yeah, right.
So it lasted about an hour in total, but it did get a lot of publicity in the mainstream media there. I know, and I can see the comments in the chat. They're not impressed with what Pauline Hanson said there. I can see a point, Pauline Hanson's point there. But as I showed at the headline of David Hiscock's XYZ article, he believes that Pauline Hanson's controlled opposition, and James Fox Higgins, he on XYZ wrote another article early this morning about tomorrow's one. And now, as I mentioned this on last week's Tim's News Explosion, that this truckers, rumored truckers blockade tomorrow, it's evolved from an idea from Karen Brewer, who since the pandemic began has has become a social media presence. She's mainly an anti-Freemason campaigner, where she calls rock spiders, and she believes that heaps of people like Ricardo Bossi and Pete Evans are controlled opposition. Even though she mainly makes videos for an Australian audience, she is based in New Zealand. She was successfully sued by federal Nationals MP Ann Webster when, as Karen Brewer accused Ann Webster of doing using a charity as some sort of trafficking ring, and so a judge found Karen Brewer guilty of defamation in absentia, and ordered Karen Brewer to pay Ann Webster $800,000 in damages, which Karen Brewer said she doesn't recognize the court, and so is not going to pay it. So this has sort of evolved from Karen Brewer's, her Anzac stand idea, which is for people to go to Parliament houses, governor's residence, and council chambers. But now, I don't know if it's her who's morphed this into a truckers' blockade, but that's what it seems to have happened here. But yes, we shall see what happens tomorrow. I know that there have been a lot of people on social media saying for the past week, make sure you stock up because there's going to be no food next week in the supermarkets. But when I was at the shops today, there was plenty of food there. And now, obviously, Pauline Hanson's One Nation and Rod Carleton's Great Australian Party, they're not the only anti-lockdown, anti-vaccine passport parties on the right. I should mention that Pete Evans, he's going to be running for the New South Wales Senate for the Great Australian Party. Last week, we had former Liberal MP Craig Kelly join Clive Palmer's United Australia Party, because Clive Palmer, this will be the third federal election his party has contested, though this time Clive has, you would say, probably a coherent, or you'd say a main message, which is in the lockdowns, no mandatory vaccines, and he's been paying for all these ads in the front of the daily newspapers. Which said, vaccinated, still catch it, still pass it on. So why do we have lockdowns? And most Australians would have got this text message the other week. I got my text message today. You can never trust the Liberals, Labor or Greens again. Authorised by Craig Kelly, United Australia Party. Click on this link there. Obviously Clive, he got a number of MPs and Senate. He got himself elected in 2013, and a number of senators elected at the 2013 federal election, though he didn't really have a coherent philosophy or signature message like he does now. Same in the 2019 federal election, though his party won no seats. There's also another major, I would say, minor, I would say, a minor party which has a major anti-lockdown, pro-freedom message is the Liberal Democrats. They have two MLCs in the Victorian Parliament who are opposing Dan Andrews' continued lockdowns and questioning the human rights compatibility, David Limbrick and Tim Quilty. And now former LNP Premier, Queensland Premier Campbell Newman has joined the Liberal Democrat Senate ticket for the next federal election in Queensland there. Now, obviously, I've said previously on Trad Tasman Talk that Campbell Newman didn't exactly have a libertarian record as Premier with his Vlad anti-association laws, but certainly what we're experiencing under the lockdown police state is way worse than the Vlad laws that he passed in Queensland. I mean, it hardly affected anybody apart from biker gangs, but of course it had the potential to be misused. Which brings me to one of my things you may have missed. Speaking of powers that can be misused, Blink, and you would miss this. So this has been reported on Cauldron Pool. The Surveillance Legislation Amendment Identify and Disrupt Bill 2021. It's giving more enforcement powers to the AFP and the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission. So the explanatory memorandum says cyber-enabled serious and organised crime, often enabled the dark web and other anonymised technology, presents a direct challenge to community safety and the rule of law. So the new powers are data disrupt warrants enable these authorities to disrupt data by modifying, adding, copying, deleting in order to frustrate the commission of a serious offence. Network activity warrants allow agencies to collect intelligence on serious criminal activity. Account takeover warrants to provide AFP and ACIC with the ability to take control of a person's account for the purpose of gathering evidence to further criminal activity. Now, it says that warrants must be obtained from a judge or the AAT. But yeah, the most concerning thing here is this part, that once they have access to an account, they can modify, add, copy, or delete content from a person's social media. And I know that David Hiscock, again at the XYZ, he had a more sensationalist spin on this new power. This is the headline. David Hiscock put, ASIO stroke new bill lets feds frame you for terrorism, which it could be one way that somebody interprets that, given that they can put stuff on your social media while investigating you for crimes. That sounds quite alarming. Now, another lobby group that is taking a stand for freedom and against the lockdowns and vaccine passports is the Australian Christian Lobby. They've just launched a a campaign, which is to ask leaders to restore freedom and list the shadow pandemic. Over 3,000 suicidal people called Lifeline in a single day recently. We're not living or even leaving the house for fear of dying. Compassion is dead with wedding plans on hold and callous disregard for those mourning and separated from loved ones. Countless small businesses are finished, each representing people's livelihoods. We are giving up total authoritarian power to state governments. Our children simply won't be able to pay back the debt. Fear is ruling the day, but Christians should lead the way in calling for our freedoms to be restored, because fear of death is a condition from which Christ is freed. And they've also been promoting, and this is also on the Coles Report website, the Ezekiel Declaration. I hope I've pronounced that right. It's an open letter to Scott Morrison, which is, if you go down here, it's signed by over, these are all the churches that have signed it. Go down here, that's plenty of, we're still not done yet. We're now over 1,000 churches who have signed it. Yeah, so nearly 1,500 there have signed this declaration, and it says, first, the government risks creating an unethical two-tiered society. Second, a good portion of the population are already burdened to the point of despair. And then it goes to, third, conscience should never be coerced when it comes to the choice of taking the vaccine. Fourth, making vaccination the basis of participating in normal life would make low logical sense in terms of protecting others, because it's becoming increasingly obvious that the vaccines, they don't create herd immunity. The person who's taken the vaccine, they're much more protected from hospitalization, serious illness, and death, but they can still get it and transmit it. But if they get the virus from a unvaccinated person, I haven't heard any infectious diseases expert argue that a vaccinated person catching the virus from an unvaccinated person would make them more sick than if they caught the virus from a vaccinated person. So the idea of vaccine passports, if a whole bunch of vaccinated and unvaccinated people are hanging out and they all get COVID, the vaccinated people, they're not going to get more sick because they were at a super spreader event with unvaccinated people. The unvaccinated people will get more sick themselves, but they won't make the others more sick there. That's my understanding from it. And so the argument is now becoming, well, we need to segregate and exclude the unvaccinated, because if they get sick, they'll overwhelm our health system. So it's about preventing the medical apartheid. It's about making sure that our hospital system isn't overwhelmed by the unvaccinated. That's the argument that they're making now then. And so it's going to be really interesting, or I shouldn't say interesting, it's going to be quite something to watch, given, as I said, New South Wales is already doing a soft vaccine passport launch. Like, how far Australia will go in excluding the unvaccinated from lots of things in society? Will they go as far as France and exclude unvaccinated people from even going to the supermarket to buy some things? Because that's how far France has taken it so far. There have been obviously massive protests against vaccine passports in France, and there was also a massive one in the UK as well. Well, that brings me to the end of another Tim's News Explosion for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and well, I made it quite succinct that I'm only just over 30 minutes tonight, which is quite unusual for me. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching and your comments and feedback. I'll see you next week for another Tim's News Explosion, same time, same channel, Wilmsfront, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, Thursday evening, and then Trad Tasman Talk with Stephen Berry, 6 p.m. Friday Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. So please stay safe and stay sane. Good night, everybody. Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.